Hello, everybody. Thank you for watching. This is Shushoku Cafe. My name is Takeshi of Quick USA. We are hosting this topic about today is about entrepreneurship, and I want to introduce our co-host Kashi-san.
Hello, everybody. My name is Kasha. I am the founder of Ikigai Connections, and I'm really excited about today's episode.
Yes, and today we have a special guest that we're going to talk about entrepreneurship, but it's not only the entrepreneurship in US, but in entrepreneurship in Japan and in the life, how it's ended up to be there, something like that. It's very interesting topic, so I'm very excited to run from the real example.
Yeah, so how about we'll start off with an introduction from UDC and just let us know a little bit about your story.
Okay, wonderful. Well, thank you, Takeshi-san and Kasha-san, for inviting me here today. I've been a fan of you guys, and I'm honored to be here. So happy to talk about entrepreneurship. Give you a very short background. A lot of gray hair, so I've done a lot of different things over the years. But started off, I moved to Japan in near the end of the 1980s. So I was there at the end of the bubble years. And those were crazy years. And I was an engineer for Kobe Seiko, Kobe Steel in the research center. Worked there for some number of years. It was full immersion. There were no other foreigners. Well, there was two other foreigners with me, and lived in a dormitory. It was truly full immersion. Got comfortable with the language and the culture, and then decided, well, that was enough engineering. I wanted to be on the business side. So I went back. I got an MBA in a joint program between UCLA and Waseda. So I spent some time at Waseda, spent some time at UCLA to get a degree in Japanese business. And then at the end of that, it was the middle of the dot-com bubble, and I ended up at a startup doing networking equipment, computer networking equipment. Right when the internet was taking off, we were making some of the equipment that was that everybody was using. But it was a very small company, and I think I was employee number 7. I was like 6 engineers and me. I was the business person, and I was hired because most of our customers were big Japanese companies, and they wanted somebody who could speak Japanese but had an engineering background to be able to talk with the engineers. So ended up doing that. The company switched a few times to some new products as it came along and the internet evolved. Did that for more than 10 years, and then that company was acquired by what is now Broadcom. And we didn't like working for a big company after spending all that time at a small startup. So myself and some friends left, and we did another startup also in kind of the same space. And that made test equipment for computer networks. Did that for about 13 years. And then that company was acquired, and then I was free. Yay. So I could do whatever I wanted. Which was doing more startups because I really enjoy working with startups. But this time, instead of having to build it myself, I was able to be an investor in the startups and a mentor to startups. So I spend a lot of my time like listening to founders and what their pitches are and what they're working on. And then in some cases working with them and trying to help them get started using my expertise, my network to help them understand what they need to do to get started. So spent a lot of time working with startups. My specialty actually comes out of, I was originally an energy engineer. Now everyone knows the importance of energy sustainability. So my main focus, everyone else is doing AI. I'm doing batteries and energy storage and other ways of improving sustainability is kind of my focus. So there's these little worlds. There's investors who focus on AI. There's investors who focus on medical stuff. There's investors who focus on sustainability. There's investors, I'm part of a group that focuses just on chemistry and materials. I love that group. And so we work with the different startups in across the space. So that's what I spend most of my time on, and spend a lot of time at accelerators and incubators trying to help the founders figuring out how to put together the business plan, how to find investors, how to find customers, and all the things they need to know once they've invented the greatest thing in the world, but now they actually have to build a business.
This is so fascinating. And I will put, we'll be sure that the link is in the video description, but we just did another video with Doc Kane from Made
Yes.
Flopo talking about entrepreneurship, but we
Right.
basically focused on bootstrapping, which means
Yep.
kind of like a solo founder doing things at their own time, not really having other companies investing or giving money or time or
Right.
being a part of the board and things like that. So can you help our viewers understand what you mean by these things like startup or
Yeah.
angel investment, or what is this world and how is it different from what we talked about in our earlier video, which thank you for watching. I know that you and
Right.
Doc are connected.
Yeah, Doc's a great guy, and I enjoyed your discussion of building, being entrepreneurial and building a small business. And there's really this, when you come up with your business idea, there's very quickly a fork in the road, and you have to decide: are you going to bootstrap, or are you going to go venture capital? It used to be you didn't have a choice. You went, you had to bootstrap. There was no other way to build a business. But then in the past 20 years or so, venture capital has just become huge, and everyone thinks, oh, they throw away the whole idea of bootstrapping, and they're all like, oh, people are going to give me money to build a business. Well, it's a lot easier. Well, it's not. It's a lot harder. So at the very beginning, you have to say, am I going to bootstrap, or am I going to take outside funding? And it's a really critical decision. And most people don't really understand what they're getting into and how to make that decision. They just kind of like, well, they taught me how to go find investors. Here's my pitch deck. Can you invest in it? What they don't realize is that sends them down the road towards venture investment. So let me explain very briefly that it's easiest to start with venture capital. So the venture capital world is investing in companies that will grow quickly and be acquired or do an IPO very quickly, so we can get our money back very quickly. The assumption, kind of implicit in this, is that 9 out of 10 of the companies that we invest in are going to fail. So since 9 out of 10 are going to fail, if the one that succeeds gives us a 10x return, we've broken even. That's not very good. So if we give you money, we want you to give us back 50 times what we gave you, or 100 times what we gave you. Now, if you're working on a new battery, technology just as something to think about, or AI, or a new drug is probably a good example. We can give you $2 million, and you can use that. You can figure out the designs. Then you can go back and get another 10 million to kind of finalize things and start working with customers. Probably need another 100 million to actually build a factory or to get FDA approval. But then once you're there, your business is worth $1 billion or $2 billion. And so when we put in the money at the beginning, 5 years or 7 years later, that company is now worth $1 billion or $2 billion or $10 billion. And that's what we're looking for venture capital. So the simple rule is the company needs to be able to grow to $100 million in revenue within 5 to 7 years. And that is really, really, really fast. And that's a very small number of companies. But if you're building batteries, I mean, the opportunity is huge, right? If you're making a cancer medication, the opportunity is huge. If you are doing AI, the opportunity is hundreds of billions of dollars. So that's what the venture capitalists are looking to fund. And if your business doesn't fit that model, you go out to them and you say, hey, I need $2 million to build my business, or I need $500,000 to build my business. And they're like, yeah, but this is not a $100 million business, so we can't get a return from it. So very quickly, you have to decide, am I going to go for the $10 million business or the $1 million business, or am I going to go for the $1 billion unicorn? And usually it should be obvious what it is from what kind of business you're building. If you're building a restaurant, it is not going to be worth $1 billion. However, if you are making artificial meat, it is, right? So very quickly from the beginning, you have to decide, is this a venture scale business, or is this I don't want to say small business, but is it going to be can you bootstrap it? Now, bootstrapping sounds really tough because no one's going to hand you $1 million to go build your product and pay your salary for you. On the other hand, though, customers, you have to go find customers. Customers will pay for things. You should have some amount of your own money. And I remember, Tasha, you said, yeah, you use some of your savings to get your business off of the ground. And that's pretty typical. You may, a lot of times you may have a spouse or a partner who's working so that you can do that at the same time. I think you mentioned in your last one as well, you can be working part-time jobs, you can be working gig jobs, especially if it's like related to what you're doing with the business anyway, then that is great overlap. So you have to find ways to pay the bills as you slowly grow the business, but then it's your business and you can focus on profits. Because what do you care about, right? You care about profits. You care about, is this paying the bills and is there anything left over for me to keep in my savings? And that is traditional business, right? You want a successful business is a business that is generating more than it costs. Venture capital doesn't think that way. It thinks, how can I build something that's $100 million in revenue so that Google is going to acquire me, or that Pfizer is going to acquire me, or that I can do an IPO and it'll be worth, hundreds and hundreds of millions. So we don't care about profits. And if you look at all of the venture businesses, none of them are profitable because that doesn't matter, right? Investors will just keep putting more and more money in as long as the company keeps growing. That makes it bigger so that somebody will buy the business. And so they buy the business based on how much revenue you have. So it's all about scale, get bigger, 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 and worry about profits later. For now, we just need to get big and take over an industry so that somebody will buy us. So that's venture capital versus bootstrapping. Angels, despite our rather nice name, are essentially venture capitalists who are investing their own money instead of. So a venture capital fund is getting investment money from other people, and it's a business. They do investments. They get money from universities. They get money from rich people. They get money from insurance companies. They put together $100 million, and then they'll invest in $5 million in 20 different companies or something like that, and that's their job. They have a full-time job of going and finding companies and investigating them and working with them. Because they need to get a lot of money to pay themselves a decent salary, they have to have typically at least $100 million of investable money, and a lot of the big ones have billions or more. Which means they're we call a minimum check size is usually $2 million. They won't make an investment less than $2 million. Well, what if you need $100,000? They're not going to give you $2 million if you need $100,000 because you're not worth that much yet. So in the stage before venture capital investors, there will be individuals like me who will invest their own money, and we'll do $10,000 investments. We'll do $25,000 investment. We'll get together as a group and do $100,000 investments. But our logic is exactly the same. We're looking for that 10x, 50x, 100x return because, again, we have to assume that 90% of our investments are going to fail. So the one that succeeds is going to pay for everything else. So exact same model as the VCs. Often you'll start off with funding from, we call it friends and family, personal money, friends and family, government grants, things like that. Then you'll get your next round from angel investors. And then at that point, you're large enough scale, proven enough that you can go to the VCs, and then they will write you a check for $2 million or $5 million. So it's all part of that venture world, which is very separate from the bootstrap world of, okay, I need to go find customers to pay the bills.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. This is fascinating. I mean, I am in the bootstrapping world, as I mentioned in the previous video, but I really wasn't aware how intense and amazing this world is. So because we're dealing with an audience that deals with Japan, and you've
Yes.
written a lot of interesting articles on this, in particular, one on Medium that we're going to share in the description. Can you talk to us next about the whole startup world in the US and Japan, and give us a little bit of an overview there.
Right. So Silicon Valley is the center of the world when it comes to startups and venture capital. New York is kind of a second, a bit in LA, actually a bit in Boston. Some in London. There's kind of Silicon Valleys around the world now. Japan is a real laggard, and I hate to see that. But I took a look. This is already a couple of years ago, but I think Japan came in, what was it, number 13 or 15 or 30th or something like that for the number of venture unicorns. And it was the same number as like Brazil and Switzerland, right? Which are much, much, much smaller economies. And that made me think about, well, why? Japan is the fourth largest economy when it comes to a lot of high-tech industries, semiconductors, electronics, computer technology, batteries, solar energy. Japan's, got world-beating technology, automotive, right? Absolutely world. No one makes cars as well as Japan does. Why are there so few venture-backed startups in Japan? And like everything else, you and I know, it comes down to culture. So I put together a list of 7 reasons. I'm not going to go through them all, but I'm going to assume that your audience here is familiar with the difference in American culture and Japanese culture. American culture is, yeah, I hate my job. I'm going to leave my job. I've got this great idea. I'm going to come up with my own thing. I'm going to find some people to give me some money. And if it fails, like 90% of them does, well, then I'll just do it again, right, with the next one, because I'll get more people to give me more money. And if that fails, then, maybe one day I can, if I run out of money, I can go get a job for some company and work for a while until I'm ready to do my third one. It works that way in Japan, right? No one's going to give you money in Japan unless you've already proven yourself. Japanese customers don't like working with startups because they want a level of quality that startups haven't proven yet. They work with, big companies, work with other big companies that they know, they trust, they have long-term relationships with. But mostly it comes down to, if you have a job at, let's say you're a battery expert, you have a PhD in batteries from Tokyo University, right? You get hired by Toyota or Nissan or, Denso or one of those companies, and you have a great job. And you can continue doing your research, you continue doing your development, and Toyota or one of these other companies will be happy to take care of you. And they have world-beating programs when it comes to, development of batteries. American car companies don't invest much in research. They don't have a research center, but it's really development. They go off and buy startups, right? But the Japanese companies invest in-house. And so if you're a PhD in batteries, you go work for one of these companies and you will be there through most of your career. The idea of, okay, well, I don't like my boss, so I'm just going to quit and do my own startup. And I've got this great idea, and well, I'll just sell the batteries to Toyota. Just doesn't resonate in Japan, right? It's like, no, I've got a solid job. I've got a good salary. I've got a prestigious job, actually, to go work in a startup. And then if it fails, then what, right? Toyota's not going to hire me back. Or at least if where I was a Seishine before, now I'll be some sort of contract employee for the rest of my career. Everyone will say, oh, that's the person who failed in their startup. It's just the attitude towards taking chances, towards the possibility or actually the likelihood of failure, the second chances. It's just a different world in Japan and the US. And here it's just like, yeah, try it. Doesn't work. Yeah, what have I lost? It was a good try. Now I learned something. I can do it again. Japan is like, no, it really only takes people who are willing to stand out from the crowd. And so the Japanese people that I've met that kind of fit the entrepreneurial mold, they leave Japan and they move to the US. And they open their startups in Silicon Valley or in Detroit or places like that because the personality that doesn't fit in Japan. They don't want to work at a big company. They do want to stand out. They do want to be different and be pushy and really try to make something that nobody's made before. So very different personality of the people, different personality of the companies, different expectations of what you can do and what you can't do, and what's accepted and what's not accepted. Well, that makes sense.
This is fantastic. I think that this conversation can go for hours.
Yes.
We're going to wrap it up soon. And then before we do so, can you give us like one bit of advice if somebody is interested in learning more about the startup world? Is there anywhere you can lead them to? What should they do? Just one bit of advice.
Okay, so I actually have a whole website with like 200 or so articles on there with everything you need to know about bootstrapping if you need money, as well as venture, how to find investors, how to do pitch decks, kind of that whole world. The website is pitchingangels.com. It's free, no advertising. So it's just all the things, all these conversations I have, all the discussions I have with startups, all of that I kind of put up on a website and said, here's everything you need to know. I'm thinking about turning it into a book. But for now, it's all up on the website, and I hope people find it useful.
Wow, wonderful, wonderful. That's I have so many questions that we can keep going on. But first of all,
Yes.
Thank you so much, because I was very confused what the difference is between entrepreneurship, self-owned businesses, startup, venture capital, angel.
Yeah.
I was mixing up everything in one place. So today on this session, it was great stuff, to understand.
Good.
First of all, what difference is the ownership?
And both of you are entrepreneurial. You're at small businesses, whether your own or a small group. And I really salute that. I mean, that takes a lot of guts and a lot of hard work, because no one is paying you to do it. You have to go out and hustle.
All right, thank you. So time is coming up. So we wanted to ask more questions, but we're gonna leave the information in the comment area. So if you want to have more information, please check in the comment area, and you can see those articles of the DC-san is writing about it. So thank you so much for your time today. It was
Absolutely.
great.
Thank you. It was a pleasure.
Thank you. Bye, everybody.
Bye.